mayor of El Cajon. I'd like you to meet Mr. Will Wells. Have a stand.
Okay.
So imagine after what happened on October 7th, and all of a sudden I get a phone call, and Mr. Wells says, Mayor Wells says, I was on my way to Israel, and my wife and I are not going to Israel right now, so I want to come to the Holocaust exhibit. And I thought to myself, God, this is so cool. This is so cool. And he didn't come once, he came twice. So I'm going to just ask you a question. What do you think of the Holocaust exhibit?
Well, I think this is extremely important. It's interesting from a museum perspective, but I think the interestingness of it is really overshadowed by the importance of it. Like so many events in our lives, there are some things that transcend the normal historical aspects, and certainly the Holocaust is one of those things that we can never forget. And you see what's happening in the world right now with anti-Semitism, and I really thought, growing up post-World War II, in the 60s and the 70s, I was taught very strongly that we always had to protect the state of Israel, and we had to protect the Jewish people, and that intolerance and anti-Semitism was not going to be tolerated in our society. And I thought that was a settled case. And now we have what's happening today, and I can't make that claim anymore. And so we're back in the saddle again of protecting what's right, not just because it's the Jewish people, but because it's not right for any group to be persecuted. So I can tell you, as the mayor of El Cajon, as an evangelical Christian, and just as your neighbor, that we care about you, we pray for you, and we will always be there to defend you and protect you as best we can.
No. I want you to meet Jordan Marks. He's our county assessor. Do we have a mic here? Are we on? Oh, we're on. Jordan, how are you? Jordan, what does this Holocaust exhibit mean to you?
Well, first of all, let's give Sandy a round of applause.
Yeah.
She was absolutely amazing. And I think her and I actually share some kindred spirit to this exhibit for multiple reasons. But one, Sandy created this exhibit to honor her mom, right?
The first one, but I made a commitment to honor the Holocaust survivors.
But it came out of family.
It came out of family, but then it became more family.
And so, for me, my great-grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. And this exhibit represented something a little different because she would not talk about the Holocaust. And we have great folks here. I know we have some survivors with us. I see Ben and
Jerry, the best ice cream in the world.
And so
Ben and Jerry, Jill, Mike and Manya. So if you wouldn't mind standing up, that would be great.
So this exhibit for me is actually telling a story of the family that I didn't know, and a story of the survivors that I didn't hear from my great-grandmother. While I would play with her and touch her tattoo, she didn't want to talk about it. And I will tell you, as the next generation that is now entrenched and making sure that the future Jewish people are protected and don't face another Holocaust, I value the brave, and my great-grandmother was brave, but for various reasons did not want to talk about it. But the work that they are doing, and the folks that along this path have left us, the angels in heaven that are looking on us, the work that you're doing to make sure that people understand and can touch history, especially one of the things that I see in the community. I represent the County of San Diego, which is 3.3 million folks. And one of the things that I hear is that the Holocaust is not real today. at La Mesa City Council, in North County, in South County. There is not a piece of this county that we don't have work to do. And so this exhibit represents not just, for me, family, not just for what we have to do to make sure people realize what can happen if we don't have a place for your voice to be lifted and shared, but also the importance that we can do to make sure that everybody understands that this was not just the Jewish people. And I'm going to compliment Sandy on that, because she has made sure that this is not the Holocaust exhibit for the Jews that were persecuted, but it was the Holocaust exhibit for the people that were persecuted, the non-Jews, the political dissidents, the people that were disabled, the people of color, the Armenians, and the other folks that are around here. When we opened this exhibit up when I was here, the Chaldean community was here, appreciating the fact that we need to make sure that we are a voice for all people that are persecuted. So for me, I bring a lot to this exhibit in my personal feelings, but I also know it also adds to the work that we do in our public service and the work that we all have to do together to make sure that we protect the future of America and what America delivers worldwide. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. You wanted to talk to Ari, am I right?
I did, actually.
Ariadna?
I want to make sure, one, as the county representative here, you know, it was really a vision of Sandy, and you know, a lot of people have feelings about former Supervisor Nathan Fletcher, but I want to recognize the fact that without his leadership, we would not be here. And so it takes one person to do one good thing to light the candles of opportunity to shed light. And you are the lighters. The candles came through this exhibit over this last year. And because of Ari and her team, the branch manager, come on Ari, don't be shy. We got to give her and her team a round of applause. Because not only did they provide a place to bring light to our community, but also, many of you might not know this, but this exhibit and this branch is now up for a national award. The only library in the state of California.
No, in the nation, outbidding California.
Right, so from California, am I stating this right, Ari? Do you want to tell everybody what this, they're up for consideration still. Don't worry, this isn't like American Idol where you have to call in or text. We're not asking you to do that. But do you want to tell everybody about this great recognition that you're up for?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're really thankful that Sandy has been providing different programming for you guys because of the exhibit. We're also have been very privileged to have been meeting quite a few of the survivors throughout the year, and also students that have learned from their stories. So it's very impactful. Just know that we're very excited to have had it for a whole year and still a little bit, a few more weeks. And then yes, the library is currently a finalist for a very prestigious award, a national award from the museum library and libraries. Yeah, museum. So yeah, we'll know the results by the end of May.
End of May?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, let's give Ari and her team here at the library a round of applause. It takes a lot of work to get here, okay? It takes vision, it takes leadership, and it takes daily commitment. And so a lot of folks have an idea of what happens at a library. Ari and her team brought the community and life to this library, and we are eternally grateful, Ari. I just want to say that personally. So, and then second, to Sandy, when we were in Chula Vista, and you didn't know where we were going to go, right?
No, I had no idea.
I am a big believer in the right hand of God. Okay, it is part of my faith, and the faith of people that the hand of God watches out for you. And so I'm not going to get ahead of any announcements or anything, but I do know that without the branch library here, the baton to keep this torch that is so necessary, and today we know more necessary than ever before alive, it would not have happened. So I'm just going to express my sincere gratitude and I wanted to bring some recognition from my office to Ari and the branch office here. So we're gonna take a picture afterwards, just because I know we want to get to the presentation, but just personally, on behalf of the County of San Diego and 3.3 million constituents, you did a
Max?
tremendous job, and we want to thank you for what you did.
He's right there.
All right.
Yeah. I think we're good.
Thank you so much for it takes a team. I'm gonna call your name and I need you to stand up. So between Sonia Fox Album, can you stand up for me? Oh, there, she's already standing. Sam Landau. Sam is right there. Jan, Arlene, where are you standing? There we go. David Beck Brown. I'm going to say John Burrows, but John keeps these very, very, very comfortable for me. Of course. I don't know where I would be without my Uncle Bob Lehman, who's right here. So there's Bob from the Museum Council. And the Holocaust survivors who you've seen. If I have them stand up and down, they can get a little tired. So, can you hear me okay? As I'm speaking. I'm going to be introducing two people to you. Actually, I'm going to do three people. I wouldn't be where I am, where I can be comfortable and say, you know, I want it there and I want it here. And without that, I would be nothing. So, Curtis, can you stand up from Maycor? All the signs that you see and the people and the banners came from Maycor. So I believe that he needs a round of applause. One of my bestest buddies is here. That's Rose Inocente Hernandez. And Rose did something that was a real miracle. Okay, your company is Next Step Downsized Living. Imagine when I got a phone call from Rose where there was a Holocaust survivor who was in dire straits. I mean, total dire straits, where her trailer had to get gutted. And you probably saw it on the news, where Rose went in and helped this one woman who didn't have a toilet, didn't have a sink, didn't have a bathroom, and the community was coming together. And what Rose did for her, volunteered, got her back on her feet, was pretty incredible. So Rose, I want you to stand up, because you know what you do is a miracle. Now, there are times where I need some inspiration, and I have been blessed with the most incredible inspiration ever. And this is my Roosevelt Williams, who, as I met him, he brought light to me when I needed it. Because we all have our little downtimes. And Roosevelt gave a talk about older people needing to share. Don't hang on to it. You need to share to the next generation. I thought, how great, between meeting Rose and meet Roosevelt. Oh, how funny, Rose and Roosevelt. This is great. And I would like you to hear what it's like to hear Roosevelt speak and how inspired I got by him. So, Roosevelt, I love you.
Oh, big love, Sandy. I first just want to definitely acknowledge the survivors, that are here, with us. And also want to just say, Sandy, thank you, because we talk about the light and we talk about the candles. One lighthouse can guide many ships. We're all here because you are the guiding light that's allowing us to be here today. So I just want to just recognize you. And if I had 10,000 tongues, I wouldn't be able to say thank you enough. I admire how you also admire and recognize your team, because individuals win trophies. But as you sit here today, it's the teams that win championships. So to be recognized on that national platform, it's amazing. Our organization, we also are recognizing you and have nominated you for a lifetime achievement from the White House as well. So
I just wanted an extra hug, Roosevelt.
but that's just an example on how your shiny light is, is guidance for us all, and leaving a legacy, for us all, and making sure that we're not forgetting history. But I just want to say, on this tree of life, we're all STEMs. We're all STEMs here, and STEM is an acronym that I want to share with you all, STEM. And STEM, for me, being here today, recognizes and symbolizes struggling together, educating minds. If you know it or not, we're all struggling together. And it is our civic responsibility to educate each other's minds on this tree of life, because we're all STEMs, if we like it or not, on this tree of life. So as we're struggling together, Sandy, we want to thank you. We want to thank the survivors. We want to thank the library. We want to thank the extra hands that have came together to educate all of our minds, each other's minds here. And that's why I have my little STEM here, because she's going to take this story and continue to grow her branches and to be able to share the story that we heard here today. So again, with no further more, just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Continue to let your light shine bright, and it does take a team. Look at the support you have here. We have the mayors, the county tax assessor. We have individuals that are meeting Sandy for the first time but have heard about what's going on here at the library, and the world is going to know about what's going on here, and it wouldn't be without the lighthouse we have in front of us. So thank you, Sandy.
I love you. Okay. There are people in my world that have taught me how to love deeper, stronger, and bigger because of situations that happen to them, whether it's in birth. It's a word called autism. And I met somebody when he was about 3 months old. And here he is, one of my dearest, dearest friends and my son's dearest friend. Now, I don't know what it takes to get recognized, but he was recognized in my world when he became my moderator for Art from the Holocaust when we were at Comic-Con. But now he's recognized in a different way, and that is with Love on the Spectrum. So I give to you, Mr. Matt Dunford.
Howdy y'all, I'm Matt Dunford. I'm happy to be here today. You've probably seen me on Netflix's Love on the Spectrum, Season 1, Episode 2, and I haven't seen it yet either. But a little bit about my background is, I'm a very big comic book nerd, and ultimately I also spent about 3 years writing World War II history publications for a forgettable place called World War Wings. Don't worry, don't go check it out. It's gone now. Good riddance. But I took these lessons that I learned in comic books and in also within the realm of World War II history. And, I thought after I was done at my time of World War Wings, I would never be able to do any of the World War II stuff either. And then until my friend Max said, hey, my mom is putting together, some presentations and talk about, the Holocaust. You could probably use someone who knows World War II history. So I said, well, sure. So I came in, and of course I got to, be reunited with Sandy, who surprisingly said, wait a sec, did you used to live in Mission Hills? Yeah. We was like, wait a sec, I think I know your parents. What? 35 years later, something like that? And it's like we're reunited doing this, being together in World War II history in this aspect. So what I did is like I said with Sandy, she put me on as the moderator of Art During the Holocaust. And surprisingly, this allowed me to bring in the two fields that I am most passionate about, of World War II history and comic books, where ultimately in this, I come off with a bang, and I say the most important image that was ever produced during World War II is the cover to Captain America #1, drawn by Jack Kirby and Joe Simon. Now, Jack Kirby, the thing about him is, his real name is Jakob Kurtzberg. He was Jewish. He was never ashamed of his Jewish heritage, but he used the name Jack Kirby because it sounded like Jimmy Cagney. He wanted a tough pen name if he was drawing comics and stuff. But being a Jewish artist, he heard about the atrocities and oppression that the Jewish people were facing in Europe, and this was only in 1941. And he said, you know what, this is even before the United States had joined the war effort. And so on the cover of Captain America #1, which sold millions of copies, he is Captain America punching Hitler right in the face. A pretty bold statement, considering at the time there were members of the American Nazi Party that had filled Madison Square Garden, a venue of 20,000 people at the time, sympathetic toward Hitler's cause. And some of those members of the American Nazi Party would actually show up to the Marvel Comics office, and they'd phone up Jack Kirby, say, hey, you want to see what some real Nazis will do? What would he do? He would go downstairs and throw down with them. He wasn't afraid to sock a Nazi. He would do it. Jack would square up with it. But ultimately, aside from doing the comic book work, Jack put his money where his mouth is, and he actually joined the war effort. And Kirby himself, being he was instructed as a field artist, because he said, wait, you're an artist? You're Jack Kirby? You're that Jack Kirby? So he had often said that they made you a field artist to go out and do reconnaissance and capture imagery of what you saw on the field. And they said they figured this was probably the most dangerous job on the front, because they were trying to get you killed at this point. And he said the most sickening sight that he had ever seen is he's one of the first Americans that ever witnessed a concentration camp. And he recorded images of the near skeletal figures that he saw there, and he just could not believe that so human beings could do this to another. And Kirby and so many of the other comic book artists came back following the war effort to return to do comic book art. Throughout the late 1940s and 1950s, they would draw stories at EC Comics in some of the horror tales of the sort and depict the Holocaust in stories that they had seen. The public did not believe that they were true. The public could not believe that something like this would actually happen. And it was those comic book artists who were taking the first steps to say, no, this is what we witnessed there. But the public would not really believe them. And honestly, it really wasn't until like 1962 with Elie Wiesel and the publication of Night that people started taking the Holocaust seriously. And it's in a time more than ever where you do have so much Holocaust denial and this fake media going around with these stupid conspiracy theory idiots that are like, the Holocaust never happened, but I'm glad it did. It's the most well-documented event in human history. You think millions of people are just getting coordinating like numerical tattoos on their arms? And we can't censor this. And I'm happy because one of the things that I see is like we should not censor this history, because history is not pretty. And me being a comic book guy, like one of the first times I ever heard about the Holocaust in itself was through the X-Men comic books, where of course the villain Magneto is depicted as a Holocaust survivor. And it was tiptoed around, but by the 2000 movie, the introductory scene of Eric Lenscher being led into a concentration camp at 8 years old and discovering his latent mutant power so he could eventually become Magneto, that was depicted there. And as you saw in the recent X-Men 97 tattoo, the X-Men 97 Magneto is tattooed on his arm. Something that they definitely shied around in the original 1992 cartoon series. But now that it's got its sequel, it's come through. But so, I think first and foremost, we can't censor this sort of history. And for those people trying to censor stories like Mouse and all these other, Holocaust stories, I say go ahead and censor them. You know what you do when you try to censor a book? All you do is give it more power. All you do is turn it into a #1 bestseller every single time when you try to cover up this history. And don't shy around from this history. Let people know about what happened so we never have to repeat it ever again. And I want to, it is a combined effort for so many to preserve the history and museums like this, for the people telling their stories, for the people creating the visual for the world to see from it, if it's a film, if it's a comic art, but it's to preserve this history because we can't lose our history. And thank you so much for taking the time.
Not reviewing the photographs. want a photo with them? All right, one more. My mom had a boyfriend, did you know that? Just after my father passed away and my mother was in assisted living. And this man taught me and people how to honor people like you in my front rows. And this man has such dignity. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Honorable Mayor Ron Morrison from National City. Hi. Look who's here.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I was known as the boyfriend. I would visit her quite regularly there when she was at, closer, there you go. When she was there at Paradise Village.
Yeah.
And of course knew her before that point also. It's amazing. We hear and we're remembering the Holocaust. What I don't want is 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, we come together to commemorate the second Holocaust. I'm going to call it the privilege, but it really was not a lot of fun. Normally when you have something you're privileged to do, it's normally something exciting and fun. But I was invited to a private function that was put on by the Israeli embassy. Very tight security. And what it was 45 minutes of a presentation that nobody talking, no commentary. It was the body cameras footage of the Hamas, and I will not call them soldiers, these were terrorists, and their attack upon Israel. The only good thing about that was the only way that the Israelis got hold of that footage was they got those individuals and got those cameras off of them. So that was the only positive thing about it. But if people could actually see that, and they did not, all of our cell phones, everything had to be locked up. And it was extremely tight security. We were completely searched, everything else. It was a very tight audience allowed to see this. But I personally know that they did not show the graphic stuff. There was a lot more that has since been suppressed. Much like with 9/11. With 9/11, there was the days after 9/11, we saw the footage of people jumping out the windows. You don't see that footage anymore. That's been suppressed. There's a lot of things about that attack on Israel that the footage has been suppressed. But there was so this was all nothing but raw footage with no commentary. With them going into houses, not going against soldiers, but going against civilians. Going into houses and pulling young girls out from underneath the bed, and one telling the other one, a shot in the head. And then they would shoot them. All on film. They showed when they went into that, there was the film, not the film festival, the concert. And it was basically young students for the most part that were in there. They had a few security guards like we do at any concert, but no soldiers were there. That's what they attacked. And you could see them as the kids were trying to run away, and they were mowing them down, shooting them. And the one time it did show off a body camera off of an Israeli soldier was when he first got on that scene. And he got there and he was reporting, and he walked up and he goes, "There's a body here." You can see the body in front of him. He goes, "Okay, body number 2, body number 3," and he got to the stage, and he looked over the stage, and it was just solid bodies. They intercepted a phone message from one of these individuals to his parents in Gaza. And he was telling them, and in excited terms, how excited he was because he is a hero. He says, "Mom, Dad, I am a hero because with my own hands I killed 10 Jews." I'm a hero. Watched as they knocked one guy down and they brought out a small knife, about 6-inch knife, and cut off his head and walked away with his head. And they were all in the middle of that, screaming and yelling to Allah be praised. It showed as they took bodies and put them in the back of trucks that they had killed the people as they were driving by. These were civilians, dragged them out, and they would put individuals, some of them as hostages, some of them just their bodies, and take them on into Gaza. And the people from Gaza came out and were celebrating and beating dead bodies, living people, whatever. Beating, hanging them out in the street, doing anything they could to them. And it was a cause for celebration in Gaza. This was men, women, and children celebrating that. There is, and their whole thing was death to Israel, death to all the Jews. And they would say that over and over again. And yet, as was just mentioned about during World War II and what happened here in the United States, do you know that some of the biggest rallies that we had during that time were American Nazi Party rallies? Madison Square Garden, overflowing crowd of people celebrating Nazism and death to the Jews. That was being celebrated here. That was what was done in 1940. In 2024, we've had those same rallies, but now they're on our college campuses by people who are claiming in the name of tolerance, in the name of, love, and in reaching out for people and acceptance of people and wokeism, that the only country that still has the same language, still has the same name of country, that still has the same boundaries that it had 3,000 years ago is Israel. That's the only country in the world. But they say it doesn't have a right to exist, it does not have a right to defend itself. Never has I known Israel to come out and say, we are here to destroy other countries. We are here to destroy other people's way of life. But all around it are people that say, we want to destroy Israel, we want to destroy the Jews. We need to stand up against this kind of idiocy. It is nothing more than idiocy. It is wrong. What's happening on our campuses, I'm sorry, is wrong. And the problem is, all too often, we're afraid to say anything. We're afraid to go against the tide because they have a louder voice in our, why? Just because they can scream louder. It's like a little kid that throws a tantrum in a store. Everyone else is talking in regular tones. That kid is screaming and everybody can hear him. We've got a lot of screaming kids out there. And we're afraid to say anything. Just as people were afraid to say anything in 1940. It may be 2024, but we need to stand up for what is right. And on that one day, over 1,200 people were slaughtered. And these were children. I didn't even mention that they also showed pictures of when they went into home and there would be babies in a crib. And they would shoot. This is not warfare. This is not defending yourself or anything else along this line. This is pure terrorism. And it's being supported by those outside of Israel. And it's time for us to say enough is enough and have our voices be heard. And I would say this, I would go the same way if it was happening the other way. If Israel was doing it to some other country and saying we want to eliminate all of the Muslims, I would say, hey, sorry, Israel, you're wrong. But in this case, we have this whole tide of people on the campuses, in our media, on social media, and telling everybody, you don't have a voice. In freedom of speech, I can say anything I want to, but you can't.
Yeah.
And you have to be quiet. No, we don't. Thank you.
Are you just amazed at what comes out of El Cajon and National City. It's just unreal. We've got the cool, and Jordan, I got the county. I have a little gift for you. I made y'all got some candy, right? Okay, don't forget you need to sign the book, so I have your email, so I can get you, so you know what's gonna happen. I have a little film that I made. I'd like to start showing it to you, and this is taking a look back at what the year has been. So let's see if we can get this up and running.